We just had the final Divisional Cup before FNCS starts this weekend. This was the perfect chance to see which teams are primed up going into Major 2, so let's start off by talking about the winners, who were of course Nebs and Nathan. Now these guys have been one of the standout duos so far this season, representing the UK as well. We love to see it. Interestingly, they actually had a really rough start to this tournament. They went down early in their first two games. They were contested off spawn in all of their matches. It was really congested in that mid-map area. They had two other teams landing on them, so it's kind of a miracle that they were able to come back and win, and they managed that in absolute style. They showed great mentality, great resilience. They got back-to-back victory royales in their final two games to absolutely surge up the leaderboard and take the first place almost out of nowhere. I can't underestimate how impressive it is that they were able to win this Div Cup whilst being contested. In some games they 50-50'd this building, which didn't always work out for them. In other matches they decided to land split and then third party the teams that were 50-50ing the building, so there was a lot of variance in their strategies, but they ended up doing just the right thing to get over the line. Listen, they also both contributed very well with eliminations. Nebs had 20, which was the second most out of any player in the lobby. Nathan also had 14, both contributing with firepower, both looking very dangerous. Now it's worth noting that these guys also had a very strong performance in the last Divisional Cup. They were actually first after 5 games, having been contested for all 5 of those. They unfortunately went down very early in Game 6, which did cost them the win, but they had no such issues this week. They were able to get the job done. What's more, this is their second Divisional Cup win of the year so far. They of course won the Div Cup just before the Summit LAN. Very interesting that both of their wins have come just before major tournaments. Of course, the Summit LAN did not go to plan for them, largely because they were contested in all of their matches, but hopefully for FNCS we can see them on con so they can play at their full potential, because I genuinely do believe they can hang with the tier 1 teams on the region. So if you take one thing away from this video, it's that Nebs and Nathan are serious dark horses to do well in FNCS. Watch out for them. Now I'm recapping the Divisional Cup in this video, but it is mainly about seeing which teams are primed up for FNCS, and Focus and Thomas HD are a great example of a duo in form. They came second in this tournament, looking pretty solid. Of course they won the Div Cup in week 1. They've shown that they're great in this current map, in this current meta, and honestly I do feel like they could be contenders to do very well in FNCS. Focus of course needs no introduction. The fact he leads this duo, the fact he is the main fragger is just ridiculous. Thomas HD had the most damage out of any player in this lobby. Water is wet. They actually managed the 3rd place in their last game. They were unfortunate not to win the whole tournament. It was just Nebs and Nathan getting that victory royale that dislodged them from 1st place, but fair play to them. Focus and Thomas HD looking good, and I do expect big things from them in the near future. In 3rd place we had Swizzy and Pixie, and they have completely shut down all the talk about them not fulfilling their potential. They've been really solid this season. Yes, prior to that the performances were a little bit underwhelming, but they came 9th at the Summit LAN, and since then they have kicked on, getting that Div Cup win, now a 3rd place. I'm really impressed by what I'm seeing. They are really making the Battlewoods POI work for them. Yes, they're getting contested in some games, but generally they are doing well off spawn. Their strategies are great. They're sitting in the storm, they're gathering heals, they're getting surge damage, all the usual stuff. It's almost a very similar thing to what Sky and Scroll were doing last season, but Swizzy and Pixie again looking primed up. Watch out for them in FNCS. And in 4th place, another duo that needs absolutely no introduction. We have got Sky and Scroll. I spoke in previous videos about how these guys had a little bit of a slow start to the season. Their placements haven't been bad by any means, but it wasn't the same Sky and Scroll that got 11 consecutive top 10 Div Cup finishes. However, I do think they are fully back. I have no more worries about them. They're getting their end games right. They're getting deep into matches. Clearly they're getting more and more comfortable over at Frosted Flats. They're doing very similar strategies to what they were doing at Battlewood Boulevard last season, with the surge bases, with the gathering heals. It's all pretty standard stuff. They also managed to win the opens round, so fair play to them. Yes, they weren't able to get the win, but the promising signs were there, and I'm excited for these guys going into the FNCS play-ins this weekend. In 5th place we had King Cringe and Twy, a duo that have been so good this season so far. They've managed a 2nd and an 8th place in the Div Cups. They were actually 1st after 5 games. They went down relatively early in that final match, but still a really impressive performance from the UK duo. We also had Twy getting the most eliminations out of any player with 21, so big credit to him for that. I genuinely don't think these guys are far off being considered a tier 1 duo. They are that good. So once again, big credit to this top 5. They are the duos that have been in form, that are consistently placing well, and will be serious threats going into FNCS. Now let's go through the rest of the top 10. We'll talk about some other duos that did okay. We'll talk about some teams that missed out, and we'll also discuss the new duos on the region. Let's start off with the team in 6th. We had Chap and Flixie. Finally a solid performance from them. They are making use of uncontested Golden Grove at long last. This was overdue, but fair play to them, they did make the performance happen. Can they keep this momentum going into FNCS play-ins? We'll have to wait and see. We had another German-based duo in 7th place. That was Khan and Reason, a completely new team. With no Darm and Deemish in the finals, they were able to get Sunken Shores uncontested, and they did take advantage of this opportunity. A 7th place, genuinely really solid. In 8th place, yet another new duo. This time it's Velo and Zynox. Of course, I spoke about these guys with a lot of praise in my previous video. I do expect them to do big things in FNCS. They had a great comeback in this tournament, managing a 3rd, a 6th and a 2nd in their last 3 games. Great resilience shown from them. And if you're wondering how Mr. Savage and Truly performed, they came in 15th place, which honestly, for their first ever finals, is really solid. A great sign going into FNCS. In 9th place, we had the underrated Polish duo of Trucio and Foczka. And this is a team that I have been talking about for months and months, way before anyone was mentioning them. W investment from me. Listen, these guys were super impressive. They had a tiny split in the middle of the map, but they made it work for them. And in some of the end games, they were going absolutely crazy, particularly in the final 2 matches. So big credit to them. Now let's run through some of the other big teams. In 10th place, we had Podesite and Sato. They were contesting Fredoxy and Marius over at Cluster Coast for the whole tournament. So fair play to them for making their games count, that they actually won off spawn, because a 10th place is pretty solid. Fredoxy and Marius came in 14th, which also isn't too bad considering the fact they lost a bunch of the games off spawn. We had Akira and Karama in 12th place, the best French duo in the world in my opinion, although maybe Skyjump and Mumsy would give them a run for their money these days. But 12th is pretty solid and nothing to be concerned about going into FNCS. We had Chino and Pablo Wingu in 17th place, and this is one that I'm a little bit worried about because they had Sinister Strip completely uncontested, and once again they just can't make the most of it. It feels like they're not really challenging for even top 5s at the moment, let alone for the wins, and that is way below the expectations for a duo with this much quality, with this much firepower. And with Major 2 and the Esports World Cup coming up, we do need to see them hit form pretty soon. In 20th place, we had Vico and Malabuka, and I'm not too concerned about them despite the relatively low placement, because I do feel like they were just conditioning. They were playing very aggressively. They were constantly third-partying the spawn fight between iDrop and Gonzo and Pink and Haris to varying levels of success. They were also battling it out against Specs and Rigby over at the west side of Lifty Lodge, so it's fair to say they were focused a lot more on fighting, on scaring the teams around them, rather than actually placing well, so we can kind of chalk off this tournament for them. Now to run over a few other big names, Shark and Teeny of course did not play in these finals because they got disqualified for using the Quack Snack healing bug, which is unfortunate for them. They did get an example made out of them, but it is what it is. I'm not worried about them going into FNCS though. They've looked solid from Calamari Canyon, and you know, I don't think they're going to have any problems. I think they are still going to be one of the top teams despite the fact they missed out on this week. We have Mongrel and Hydro though, finishing in 55th place in Opens after all the other teams got removed, which is pretty solid in all honesty. An enormous improvement on what we have seen over the past few weeks, so it looks like they're hitting form right before FNCS. Yes, they didn't make the finals, but the signs are there. They're looking much better, and if they can ride this momentum going into Major 2, then it could be a campaign for them to remember. I mentioned already that Darm and Deemish didn't qualify for finals. They've had a little bit of a tough season to date. They obviously were contested in the first 2 weeks of the Div Cup over at Sunken Shores. They were then middling in week 3 and they didn't make these finals, so not the ideal setup for these guys going into FNCS. Now, time to talk about some of the new duos. The big names, as you can see, Yapko and Pix playing together. They didn't make the finals, so we haven't seen too much of them, but I do think that will be a solid Polish team. You've got Trulex and Faded Pigeon, who actually did qualify for finals, and they were fighting Cammy and Hari off spawn every single game. Other duos include Ping and Ghost, Sined and Opal, Vostroki and Noah Rayleigh, and Alba and Xenox. In other news, we had Tayson and Chicho briefly play together, but they have now split and they're both looking for new options. Twek is also someone that is looking for a teammate. Once again, I'm very surprised that Twek and Gonzo did split up, because they of course won the week 2 divisional cup, and it's crazy to think that only a few weeks after that they are completely just not playing together. That still kind of blows my mind. A quick word on NA Central. We had Cold and Ritual win the Div Cup. Cold has been nuts so far this season. The team I want to discuss though is Moneymaker and Fanayan. Now this Swedish duo have moved to NA Central, and in their first cup on NA they have done really well, finishing in 8th place. Shout out to Moneymaker for getting me 90 points on Levin's nothing but Fortnite fantasy game. Really be carrying my team. But listen, I did have a kind of suspicion that Moneymaker and F9 would do well on NA. I feel like the region is kind of suited for them, and I'm really excited to see how they do in the actual Major 2. In terms of the EU duo that did the best from actual European ping, it was Scroll and Zany, managing a 15th place, so fair play to them. Now listen, this COP was a great warm-up for FNCS, a chance to see which duos are in form. Of course, the meta has changed a little bit. There's no more hot rocks, no more hunting rifles. We are back into the overdrive grenade only meta, with the Rangers pistols being mained by a lot of teams. So it was interesting to see how that played out in these finals. I'm very excited for FNCS. It's going to be a great one. Please subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the rounds so you don't miss out on anything. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one.